Here we go, another edition of Philly Bets here on Heat Ratio Sports YouTube channel. I'm Dave Gleckner, joined by my buddy, Mark Drumheller. What it do, baby?
What's up, my man? Another week in the NFL, another week in Philly sports. It's been all Eagles so far, but it's going to be heating up now as we get into the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't even wear my Eagles stuff tonight. I'm starting to go flyered up. I know we got another week. I got my orange machos to go with it. We'll pause. We'll get to the Flyers next week. This is just to give them a little good mojo as we roll in. They had a nice little preseason Ivan Provorov dumping one in overtime, I think, last night to win a game. I know we don't care too much about preseason, but hey, anything to get me hyped up now because wins are tough here in Philly.
Wins are wins, and we'll take every one of them. So preseason for the Flyers, hey, whatever they got to do to get going, because we're going to need a good season out of them. We're going to need a good season out of the Sixers, because this year with the Eagles might be over a little earlier than we hoped.
Yeah, let's get into the massacre. Well, I mean, we kind of knew what Kansas City would or was capable of doing, but I'm still going to call it a massacre that was down at the Link this last Sunday. There's no prizes for putting up 30 on the Kansas City Chiefs. There's no, there's no wins in this to me. I wouldn't be excited about what we did at all on either sides of the ball. This was, to me, I was kind of embarrassed. I mean, I know we talked offline about this early on. We should have expected the Chiefs to roll on us. Got it. I just didn't expect them to go 9-10 on third down, never punt. It was just too easy for them. I think Jonathan Gannon was just completely outclassed. I'm really nervous about that. And then Nick Sirianni, dude, it gets worse. It gets worse. Not being able to convert against that team down in the red zone. No, I mean, saying you're going to be aggressive, not going for it on 4th and 2, taking the timeout, wasting it, and then kicking field goals all the time. Dude, it's no good.
No, it's really not. And, it's the underlying factors that bothered me more than the end result, right? If you would have talked to me at the end of August and said, hey, you know what? When the Chiefs come to Lincoln Financial Field, they're going to beat us 42-30, and we're not going to come away with the W. I would have shrugged my shoulders and said, yeah, you know what? I got that one chalked up as a loss anyway, right? But when you see the way they lose, they just seem so unprepared. The game plan is questionable. And as fans, we always like to question the game plan, right? It doesn't mean that we're right, but they just seem to do some really odd things. It seems like Sirianni and his young coaching staff truly is learning on the fly. And it's going to take a lot of patience from the fan base. The penalties are disgusting. They're the most penalized team in the NFL, completely undisciplined. And I don't get a lot of confidence when I see him sitting in the press conference being like, yeah, I'm ticked off about the penalties. Okay, Nick. Okay, you're ticked off. What's next?
Well, you know what pisses me off, Nick? That you give these stupid 5 mantras or whatever that you live and breathe by that you push on the team. And, one of them is being this disciplined style and not, shooting yourself in the foot. And you've done it 4 straight weeks. 4 straight. You set a franchise record for penalties. It's an absolute, characterization of yourself. And not only are they penalties, right? They're dead ball penalties half the time. They're non-play penalties. They're these false starts. These offsides. They keep jumping off sides. They're undisciplined. And it's bad, man. And that's a reflection on the coach. And yeah, I'm with you. I have zero confidence when he goes into the press conference and said he's mad. I'm sure he's mad. Fix it.
Yeah, how? Yeah, how are you going to fix it? That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear you're mad. Everybody's mad. Join the party. We're all mad at you. But how are you going to fix it? What are you going to do to correct these types of issues? And, elaborate. Is it surprising? What are you doing? And, just give us something to hold on to instead of yeah, I'm mad, because nobody cares if you're mad, Nick. We want results here.
No, we want results. And let me ask you this. Early in the game, they get to 4th and 2. It's the first first drive of the game. They're down to 20, and they can't get the play call in. Hurts is clapping. It goes to zeros, but they get the timeout in, right? What's he do? He kicks a field goal. If you're going to kick a field goal from 20, why take the timeout?
Right.
Why waste that valuable timeout? Take the 5 yards, just boot it in. What happened to this aggressive? Like, I just think it looks like the game's too big for him right now. Every time I look
Yeah.
around, every um, glance I get, it just seems like it's just too big and too fast for him, doesn't it?
It does, and that was my concern coming into the season. Is that the beginning of the schedule is so difficult. It's
Mhm.
the schedule is not balanced the way it's laid out. It's very, very difficult in the beginning. And then the second half of the season, you get the Jets, you get the division, right? Which Dallas seems like it's going to be difficult, but
Yeah.
besides that, Washington, the Giants, not a problem. Not that those are easy wins, but those teams just aren't really playoff contending teams. They're below average. They should be winnable games that you're at least competitive in. Unlike what we saw this past weekend, and it's that playing those types of games back to back, like playing the 49ers, and 49ers not off to the best start, losing that game the way they did with a lot of mistakes, right? And then getting smoked by Dallas, right? And getting smoked by Kansas City. And now you're going to play Carolina on the road, which I think, they're 3-1 football team. We can discredit their wins all they want, but I definitely understand why they're favored in this matchup. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But and then you get Tampa Bay.
Oh,
So it's how does he handle,
and then like Vegas.
just right, just taking it on the chin week after week. And that's really, can he, how does he keep the team held together in the locker room, believing in him, believing in the coaching staff after this gauntlet of a first half? Because if he does come out of it, with the trust and credibility of his team, there is a path for them to kind of make a run. They're going to need something to happen to Dallas. Dallas looks like the clear favorite here in the
Yeah.
division, but they can at least make it a competitive season, right? We can get, right where we thought we would end up, around 8-9 wins, and have some fun in the second half. But if the wheels fall off and he completely loses the team, it could go the other way as well.
Yeah, and all signs unfortunately point that way right now. Um, Let me ask you the probably big question in Philadelphia, and it's what do you think of Jalen Hurts? And I really do feel like it's two. We got two teams here, right? We got all for and all against, and there's not much in the middle. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Another, in my opinion, a hollow stat sheet. Lots of numbers, no product, no, not when it matters. They were obviously they didn't punt, they moved the ball efficiently, effectively, but there was just plays that were still out there to be had. Zach Ertz on the very first drive, over his head in the end zone, right there, off his fingertips, over his head. You can't make that catch. He did it again later in the game. Um, I even think the Goddard touchdown was kind of lucky. But what's your take on where we are with Hurts right now?
Yeah, I think that, it's, you talked about, two kind of different games. Like, I think there's two different Jalen Hurtses, right? Like, you see Jalen Hurts when the game is competitive and when they're, the score is within reach. And then you see, Jalen Hurts when they're down by 20, right? The Jalen Hurts down by 20 looks really good because the
Yeah.
game's out of reach. But when the game is competitive and, in the first half of these games against Dallas, against Kansas City, in those games, he just seems to come up a little bit short. Now, I think it's going to take time. He's going to continue to develop chemistry with Devonta Smith and some of the other players on the team. But, the physical limitations that concerned me coming into the season don't seem to be improved, right? So the
Yeah.
arm strength seems to be an issue. Some of the accuracy concerns. He still seems to throw to the corners, not really utilizing the middle of the field as much as I
No.
would like to see. So that tells me he's not seeing the whole field, right? You know what I mean? And it's just, to me, he kind of is what I thought he was. Like, there's a reason a lot of teams in the NFL had a third round grade on him. That doesn't mean that he can't grow and be a serviceable NFL quarterback. But with all this draft capital tied up in the next year, do you really want to hit your wagon on somebody, a quarterback, to where, like, you have to be perfect around in order to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, and the other issue I have with Hurts, and you've probably seen it too, is if his first read isn't there or if the rush is coming in quickly, he's quick to leave that pocket. He is
Hmm.
very quick to run out right and right's his move, and then he just, I mean, the field's so shrunk then he can't make the play, and it really, I, I'm not confident in his ability to be an NFL quarterback right now. Now, what I do like from him, he does throw the running back ball pretty well. That's something that drove me nuts with Wentz. He's able to get the ball out to Gainwell, who looks great, Sanders, those short little intermediates out to the wings, like you said, not over the middle, have been pretty good. So is there room to improve? Maybe. But really what the key is, and I think you hit on it, if the season ended today, the Eagles would have 3 top 10 picks. 3. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins are atrocious. The Colts, let's be honest, if they continue down this road, Wentz probably isn't getting the 70%. So I don't think you're getting the top 10.
They'll shut him down.
Yeah, you might still get lucky and get top 18 to 20, because if they hang on fringe contention, the Titans stink, Jaguars stink. So they're going to be right there, right? But really with that draft capital that you spoke of, it's got to be quarterback. The only concern I have now is there one out there?
Oh, I think there will be. I think that there will be. Who that's going to be. I mean, I listen. You got to see these guys kind of go through the season. Still very early in the college football season, but I think there's a ton of talent in there. Obviously, Rattler's fallen off, and he probably won't even come out. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, probably better suited to stay another year. But you got guys like Matt Corral and Sam Howell. These are the types of quarterbacks that can succeed in the NFL if they get the right coaches, right? They have a ton of mobility. Matt Corral, a quick twitch athlete, did not look great against Alabama, right? Yeah. But they're not Alabama. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't look good against Alabama, so I don't really hold that against them. But I think there's going to be some guys. So, you might even see, Carson Strong from Nevada shoot up the charts. Get closer to the draft. We'll have to see how the season plays out, but there's always a crop of quarterbacks, and we are in an era where, it's easier for them to transition, I feel like, from the college to the pro game. So if they see a guy that they think could be, a franchise guy that can win you a Super Bowl in the future, I think they should gobble him up for sure.
How about Ritter?
Yeah, I like him, man. I'll tell you what, Desmond Ritter, I liked him a lot. I like how
winner.
He's
just a winner.
You saw it against Notre Dame. That game started to get away from him, right? And then he just shut the door. He's a closer. And that's what you want to see on the road in South Bend, big audience, biggest game of the year for them. And he shuts the door. He's like, okay, you know what? We cracked the door open. You stuck your head in. He smacks the door in their head. And that's what you want out of a quarterback. So I like Ritter. Yeah.
And one of the things I'll say on Sam Howell, I'm not super high right now, but I will give him a slight pass. When you lose those 2 dynamic running backs in the NFL, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, and you're just got nothing in the backfield, he's out there dying. So in the NFL, that wouldn't be the case, right? You
offensive line's a mess. The defense is a mess. So he's always playing with scoreboard pressure. Like you saw that against Georgia Tech. Like that's a game that they're supposed to win. They're supposed to blow that team out. But every time they would come back, Georgia Tech would score again, and it's just exhausting. But
they can rush you all day. There's no running game, so they're just peeling back. Yeah. So I'm trying to give him a little bit of pass. Rattler, I'm worried about though, and I think you hit it on the head. I
don't think he's coming out. No.
Yeah, I think it's another year. It's got to be right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. I wish Bryce Young was available, but I think he's got another year, right? Because he's a red shirt.
Well, hopefully, he can bring that offensive line and that defense with him.
Well, true. The arm talent's there.
The arm talent's definitely there, Bryce Young. Yep, absolutely.
All right, let's get into this week, and what really set the stage and the panoramic background here is Carolina Stadium. We laid it on. We're invading there. One of my favorite memories of the Super Bowl season was when we went down to Carolina. It was a Thursday night game. I want to say it was week 3 or week 4. I think it was then. Went through a late ball to Ertz to win the game. And it was really then we're like, whoa, is this team actually pretty good? I think we got out to 3-0 or 4-0. It was right around then. And we started to really feel it out and like, okay, this might be like real. And I got some good fond memories of us playing down there. I just feel like the Eagles do pretty well. They obviously bring a large contingent. And in years past, Carolina is not that strong. So we kind of take over the stadium like we do down in Washington. But it's a little different this year. Carolina's rolled out to 3-1 start. Like you said, we can look at who they played, but I don't care. 3-1 is 3-1 in the NFL, and it's quality. And they have improved. Sam Darnold, you can say what you want about his tenure with the Jets, but he's looked like a pro NFL quarterback this year. They're out McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard's in, but he's a viable replacement, a stud coming out of Oklahoma State, sorry. And they got wide receiving depth. DJ Moore is just unbelievable. They just recently traded their tight end, Dan Arnold, because they love Tommy Tremble, another rookie coming in out of this class. So I think they're skilled. I think their offensive line is a question mark. Their defense now was really good going into last week. But the loss of J.C. Horn, their first-round pick, the cornerback, I think was a big factor going into last week. In fact, they made a trade for a cornerback, I think. Didn't they just get Stephen Gilmore because of that?
They did. They just got
Yeah.
Gilmore. Yep. So, I think they're going for it this year. I think Matt Rule, sees the opportunity. This team could, push for a playoff spot, and he's trying to jump at it. You get a guy like Gilmore on the cheap, probably not the same guy he was before the injury, but definitely a contributor to a solid defense.
Yeah, I guess my point being is I don't want people to get brainwashed thinking, oh, Carolina hasn't played everybody. They got smoked by Dallas too. I think Carolina's actually pretty decent. I think Carolina's got a chance to be the second place team in that division. And we got to take this game seriously. Now, the advanced metrics show, and you've seen them across Twitter and some other places, that the Eagles really, from a yards gain perspective, their output's better than most teams in the league. I think they're fifth overall, but their points expected, really low. It's negative. Where Carolina is a little bit of the flip side. They're green on both sides. I think what it's trying to tell you is the Eagles may not be producing to the numbers that they're putting up. And I think you can comment on that, while Carolina actually is. And I think we got to respect this opponent. And I think it's going to be a really tough matchup for us.
Yeah, I really do think it's going to be a tough matchup. I think that some of the stats that you see from the Eagles really don't tell the whole story. We talked about how, the Eagles offense has been able to gain a lot of yardage in times in the games when it wasn't really competitive against both Kansas City and Dallas, and I was kind of going back and forth with Jared Smith and Adam Rosenberg on Twitter today, and we were talking about their yards per play stat because yards per play, they're very efficient. Net yards per play, they're at the top of the league. But the analogy that I threw out there was that if you're getting penalized all the time and you lead the NFL in penalties, you get 1 trillion penalties when you're out there. If it's 3rd and 15 or 2nd and 20, they're going to give you 10 or 15 yards. You know what I mean? So you're going to get yards. And it's not necessarily, if you look at success rate, they're in the bottom half. The offense is in the bottom half of the NFL. And I think that kind of tells the story that, like, some of these yards that you're seeing out of the Eagles are a little manufactured and the offense isn't that successful. Now, on the flip side, I think Carolina's defense, not the number one defense that the stats show it's been. We saw them get diced up a little bit by Dallas. Dallas, I think, has a very good offense, very potent, can beat you a lot of different ways. But the one thing that Matt Rule does is he's able to pressure you, and he's able to generate pressure with that Carolina defense. And I think that's going to be a challenge for the Eagles. And Hurts is, if they do get after them, are they going to be able to kind of combat that pressure, with quick decision-making and, be able to kind of win the chess match with the Carolina defense and Phil Snow?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, what you have up front is you have a just aggressive front four, creating a lot of pressure at the quarterback position. We talked about it earlier. A guy like Brian Burns, a defensive end, he is just a monster for Carolina. And if he's able to get that edge, we don't know what Lane's condition is this week, and we're obviously going to be out. It looks like we're going to be out with Mailata again. So a kind of patchwork offensive line. If you're not able to protect against this team and Jalen Hurts' first read is run, it's going to be a long day. I really, truly believe that. And I think the Eagles are going to have a little bit of trouble, similar to their game against San Francisco. Outside of long ball to Quez, they were really stagnant in between the 20s. And I'm worried. I'm worried that they're not going to be able. This Carolina team, they did bend last week for the first time all season. They were number one in the NFL going into last week. But, Dallas is good. We got to give them credit. I think Carolina's going to be licking at their chops to get back on that pedestal and really be aggressive against us. I'm nervous that we're going to be able to hold them back.
Well, they got smacked in the mouth, right? So I think they want to take a step forward to kind of, because if they lose another game, then doubt really starts to creep in, right? And I think the coaching staff knows that. So I think they're going to try and be aggressive offensively against an Eagles defense that obviously has shown some weaknesses, right, in the past couple weeks, to put it kindly. Eagles defense not very good, letting up 40 plus the last 2 weeks. So, but the Carolina offense just isn't. I don't see it as an explosive offense. I don't see Sam Darnold, putting up a ton of points. But if they can score early and make the Eagles come from behind, I think that kind of plays into what they want to do as a defense as far as bringing pressure and being aggressive. We've seen the betting market kind of side with the notion that Carolina is more of, we'll say paper champions, might not be as strong as the stats suggest. Then Philadelphia, we've seen this line open at 4, has moved down to 3.5. The Eagles getting support again in the betting market. And I think a lot of that is based off some of the metrics that we talked about that I don't think hold as much weight as the betting market does right now. So I think it's very interesting. It's hard with a team like Carolina that doesn't have an explosive offense to lay more than the key number of 3, right? So I think that's why you're seeing some interest in the Eagles at this point. I think if this was to get down to 3 or 2.5, I think you would see some buyback on the Carolina side.
I agree. I guess the staggering numbers to me are the Eagles are 31st in the league against the rush defensively. They're just a sieve. Even in their one good game against Atlanta, they still met like that. I think they were for
plus Mike Davis.
Yeah, he was hitting them in the nail. It wasn't until we had a big lead that they got away from the running game and we were able to attack the quarterback, right?
The bad thing about that first game against Atlanta is you don't get to play Mike Davis every week.
No.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately, you got to go play some legitimate NFL running backs. And the same thing, Dave, I think, when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, it was a good win. It was a dominating win, but yeah. I see them. I have them rated now as at least a bottom 5 team in the NFL.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Right now, if you look at the bottom 5, it's Jacksonville, Detroit's there. I was going to put
Houston,
Jets, but Jets got to win. Houston, and maybe them or the Giants. It's right there.
I think it's them. There. I know they beat the Giants, but I just think the Giants are a better team when healthy. I think the Giants offense looks a lot better. Giants offense, top 10 yards per play. Daniel Jones, as much as I said that, I think that they need to move on, and I still think they need to move on, but hey, threw for over 400 yards against Saints defense. That's not really, in a road upset, right? In a hostile environment. So I think we are seeing him take some strides. Hopefully he takes enough strides to where they bypass drafting a Sam Howell or a good quarterback in the draft, and they continue to go with Daniel Jones. But that's what I would like to see. But he's exceeded my expectations that were floor. You know what I mean? But he's exceeded them.
He's 1-3, so I'm not sure how much he's exceeded, but I tell you, it's the Kirk Cousins theory, right? You just hope he's good enough for them to franchise tag, keep holding on, keep hoping that they're going to win some games with him, and then they never
draft another running back in the first round.
Yeah. Hey, avoid another receiver. Go ahead, another Kadarius Toney. Go ahead. You need so much other line work.
Draft is full of Kadarius Toneys, so no problem there.
Full of them, but. Yeah, this game, I guess when I look at the key numbers, I do think, and maybe I'm gun shy, and I want you to help me out from a betting perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did think there was value in the Eagles at plus 7.5 last week, and I will still tell you, until this year ends. Until this year ends, the Kansas City Chiefs are not winning the Super Bowl unless they get some type of Superman come in there and play defense. That is one of the worst defensive I ever seen in my entire life. It is horrible, and we still couldn't keep up with them. I thought there was value in them Monday night versus the Cowboys. I just had this feeling that they were going to be able to neutralize.
Yeah, I bet them that Monday night.
Yeah,
didn't come through.
Yeah, the Niners game we were both not sure, but now I'm a little better scared. I do think the Eagles are the side here. I think the 3.5 is a good number. I think even if you can see 4. I think Carolina is a little bit overvalued, even though we have talked about, the strengths that they've had going in. But the fact of the matter is, DJ Moore is probably the only thing that worries me a little bit. I think Gannon's got to come with a little more pressure, because when you do pressure, you saw it. That's how they got the interception against Mahomes. When you're able to create that pressure. Now they're not going to be – it's not Dak Prescott and it's not Patrick Mahomes, right? So I think he will be a little bit more aggressive against Darnold. So I just got this good feeling that the Eagles can compete in this game, can possibly win it. But then part of me says, is that my head? Is this? And I'm trying to look at it with a clear mind, but I'm scared because of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, not on the game. But if I were to, it would be tough. I would probably play Carolina, and I'd probably sit and hope it drops to 3, right, and then try and jump
Yeah,
on it then. Just because of the fact that I think they're home. I think they have the better defense. I think they probably have the better quarterback in Darnold. And I'm not a huge Sam Darnold guy, but I think right now he's probably playing better than Jalen Hurts is. Seeing the field a little bit better. And I think they get McCaffrey back. Isn't McCaffrey back? Or I think he's back and ready to go this week.
well, so he had taken the field for some practice, limited reps.
Mhm.
Just not sure where they're going to put him yet, but yeah, it's looking that way. I just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Hamstrings are
So
tricky, right?
they are, right. So he could be in for one play and then be done, right? So we don't
Yeah,
know. But I just think that it's again, like, let's be honest, right? Like, I'm not trying to beat up on the head coach. He's 3 games into it, or 4 games into his, career, right? His tenure, and he's got a long way to go and a long way to grow. And I'm happy to see how things play out this year. But if this game is a field goal game, right, or a 1-score game, and we get into the fourth quarter, like, who are you more comfortable with from an in-game management perspective, right, to make the right decisions, to make the right call when to go on a 4th down, not to call a Philly special inside the red zone. Whose offense do you think is going to have a better chance of scoring in the red zone? Carolina against our defense, or our offense against their defense, right? And I think we both know the answers to that, and that's probably why I would lean to Carolina. But I think the best play on the board, Dave, is the under in this game.
yeah.
And I think we've seen some movement from 46.5 when that came out and opened. I thought it was high. I think it should be down around 44. It's at 45 now. I still think it's a play on the under, just because as bad as the Eagles defense has been, I think that this is a game where they can get a little more confidence in. And I don't think Sam Darnold is a guy that is necessarily going to light up the scoreboard on a week-to-week basis. So I don't think they have a lot of offensive firepower. Saw him put 28 up against a Dallas team that is really not good defensively, just creates a lot of good turnovers. And, that's kind of masked some of their deficiencies. But, they got those points in garbage time, right? It was really, they scored 14 points, and then Dallas, hit the showers, and then they scored a couple more touchdowns. So just not explosive offense with Carolina. And I think the Eagles are going to struggle a little bit to move the ball against this Carolina defense, because even though they're not as strong as the stats may suggest, they can still generate pressure. And when you can generate pressure and you get sacks, there's 2 things that kill drives: sacks and penalties. You can look at all the data and analytics, right? And I think that the Eagles are going to get sacked, and they're going to have a lot of penalties
Yeah.
from what I've seen so far this year. So I think that's going to kind of lower the expectations as far as them scoring. So I think this game goes under the total of 45.
I like it. Well, the one way I've been successful on Wednesday nights in our Philly Bets episodes, it's actually play a teaser. I did it the other week, and I'm going to do it again here. And it's when we talked about it against San Fran. I will take the Eagles in a teaser, and I'm going to tease them with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to make it a Keystone State teaser. Pittsburgh's got a lot of problems, but at -1 right now against Denver at home, I expect them to right the ship a little bit, but my bigger concern is the health of Teddy Bridgewater. This is more of I have zero faith in Drew Lock. He's steady. And now Bridgewater has a concussion, right? So, I mean, he could probably get well pretty quick. I just can't see Denver rolling in there and really, they're not healthy at receiver. Judy's out.
Right. That's really the key. I think.
And how do they move the ball against that defense?
Right. Bridgewater may play. They said that he was kind of trending that way, so it could be a Bridgewater game. If it's not, I think you're going to see some line movement in Pittsburgh's direction. But the key here is that they're just depleted at the wide receiver position, a position of strength for them this year coming into the season, a position of depth, and they've really had to count on that depth. So I think this is kind of a get-right game for the Steelers. I mean, it's going to be an ugly one. There's not going to be many points in it, but I think it's probably a good game to tease up if you can, what I mean, and get some points.
I get it up to 5 now. I'll take the Eagles at 9.5. I do think the Eagles, and that's where I have the better's remorse. Not sure what I'm going to do. And I think that gives me a little security blanket and some safety, because I do think when you have an idea if the team can win the game outright, I think taking the points here is the way to go. I'm like you. I'm a little nervous on the 3.5 numbers that you see out there, especially if McCaffrey does play. So I think the tease up is my play this week, and we'll pray, man. We'll just hope they
Yeah.
make this game
Yeah.
competitive.
Listen, hey man, it's a game, even though I'd probably take Carolina, it's a game that I think is gonna be low scoring and I think it's gonna be competitive. So, they're right there in it. If they can make the plays in the fourth quarter, they're gonna be victorious and we're all gonna be happy.
I absolutely agree. So while we're in it, Philly bets. We're Philly bets for a reason. We're coming into about the 30-minute mark of the show, but we got a real special one here on Friday night, and it's our Temple Owls going down to Cincinnati. The Bearcats, we've already talked about them a little bit with Desmond Ritter and their huge win in Notre Dame this weekend. And that's not just the only win. They had won in Indiana the week before. They're riding high. They're coming in playing a very inferior opponent in Temple. It's really, to me, a curiosity standpoint. If Cincinnati can even get up for this game, it's on an odd night. It's on a Friday night. It's party time. It's definitely a doormat that they're playing, and I think there could be some value in the Temple Owls, especially them coming off. I know a huge win against Memphis, but also, just so I think it's just a confidence builder the way they played
Mhm.
last week. And I think
Yeah.
29.5 is asking a lot for a team that I just don't know how they can get up for this game.
Yeah, it's very interesting from that perspective from my part because you look at it from the Temple situation, right? They get Mathis back, the quarterback. They huge upset against the Memphis team. They were double digit dogs. They get the outright win, right? Build confidence, move on. Now you got to play Cincinnati on a short week, right? So you have less time to prepare. You got to go to Cincinnati. You got to travel. And now you got to go play Cincinnati. And I think if this game was on, 12 noon on a Saturday afternoon, I would probably lean towards Temple, like hanging within this number. But I think the fact that it is Friday night helps Cincinnati more. And the fact that they're home, they don't have to travel, you know, they can prepare for Temple in a short week, right? I'm not sure Temple can prepare for Cincinnati on a short week. And is it going to be a letdown spot for them? Possibly, but you get up for Friday nights, right? Everyone as a kid wants to play on Friday nights. It's that's what we play in high school, that's what we play in Pee Wee, all the way down. The night games are always the funnest games. So I think that they're going to take advantage of the fact that all the chaos in college football in the top 10 has now opened the door pretty wide for them to make the playoffs. So I think they realize how important it is to dominate these types of games and how it could actually come into play as we get to the end of the season if they go undefeated and run the table and they're trying to make a case to make the playoffs, right? So if they beat, Temple by 2 touchdowns at home, not going to look very good when they're trying to make a case to make the playoffs, right? So I think that they make an example here out of Temple. I love the Owls, but I think that this is one that they're going to struggle. It's going to be over pretty early, I feel like, in Cincinnati, and I think the Bearcats roll. I don't think, like, with that defense, I don't think Temple's going to be able to score.
Yeah. I think you raised some good points there. Memphis is not very good defensively. They let up a lot of yards against UTSA, even against Miss State, were able to get away with a fortunate win. And I think it finally came back and bit them in the butt. I do have concerns about Temple's ability to put up points. I'm not going to bet this game. I'm going to make it clear. I don't think it's a good spot either way. I worry about Cincinnati's ability, but like you said, Friday night might give them a little bit more firepower.
Yeah, get a little bit of boost in front of the home crowd. Hey, I don't know. I just think that it's like, I don't know. Like, I think it's a harder spot for Temple, to be honest with you. Like, they get the win and now short week, they got to travel, and it gets. I think that kind of mitigates any kind of letdown. But hey, we'll see, man. Hopefully, they play them tough. They be competitive. If they are competitive, I think it's a confidence boost either way. You know what I mean? This is not a game that they're supposed to win. So if they can just go out there and do some good things, score some points, get some momentum that they can carry through for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this is fun. We got a little Philly action on Friday night. Definitely the Sixers are coming up, starting to play some preseason ball. We're able to play Toronto the other night. And they got another one coming up against the Raptors. Flyers right on the tip. We'll talk about them a little bit next week as we get ready to drop the puck. So it's getting exciting. I'm glad we got some Philly action. Let's close with a little Thursday night NFL football. Last week, we just gave a little insight into where we thought this would lay. I'm going to give an official pick this week because it's an awesome game. But let's just say this about last week. The one thing I didn't expect was that Urban Meyer was going to be, doing Urban Meyer things and get all fired up before the game, get his team inspired to play some good football and stay within that number. The Jacksonville Jaguars should have won that game. But Joe Burrow pulled off some magic, won it in the end, 24-21. What's your take on the Urban Meyer saga? I'll give you mine real fast. Everybody makes mistakes, right? Nobody, if you're sitting there judging this guy on that action, you live in a glass house. It was bad. It was reprehensible. Got it. Get it. Let's move on. My bigger concern with Urban Meyer is he's not a good NFL coach, and he's not a good motivator, and people don't like him, and his team hates him. That's not what happened in the bar. So let's just really talk about the facts. This guy stinks as an NFL coach and should be out of there and will be out of there by the end of the season, if not sooner. It's what college coaches do. He bit off too much of the apple. He's already seeing it. And I think he's just not made for this life. And some people said it's a conspiracy. It's set up. People were taking videos of that to help him get fired so he can go to USC. I don't know if I believe that. But I will tell you, this boy's like Saban. He ain't lasting long, and
No.
it's going to end ugly. I don't know. I know you're not a huge Urban guy as well.
Yeah, I thought that it was a horrible hire when they did it, and I thought that the challenge was the biggest red flag was he tried to hire the guy from that had all the issues with the team in Iowa, and and then he had to take that back and make him resign and not hire him. And then he brings in Tim Tebow because he's his friend. Should have had Tim Tebow out with him at the bar. Might have not have ran into this issue, right?
But, no, he wouldn't have.
But and it seemed to me like he just from the beginning he created a culture of entitlement. Hey, well, this guy, he got fired from his other job, so I'm going to hire him even though he did awful things. And Tim Tebow is a terrible player, but I'm going to hire him anyway, and I'm going to give him a tryout. And it's just NFL players are going to see through that nonsense pretty quick. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing now. And, the actual act in the bar is what it is, right? And, we don't really have to go too far into detail about that. But I think the key is he tried to explain it to the team and they laughed at him. They laughed him out of the room. Yeah. So that just goes to tell you what the team thinks of him, and that's bad. It all comes down to culture, whatever Meyer. He just can't build it. These guys aren't on scholarships, man. You got to be genuine.
Yeah,
and he's finding that out the hard way.
I heard something. Tell me, I could be wrong, but I heard he owned that bar. It was his. He.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, he was saying that he owned. No, I think he might have. I mean, he said that he owned the act to the team. He was I apologize and owned it. I don't think he owns the bar. He might have, but
no. Because if that's the case, who's taking? Well, anyway,
it was the whole thing was he. I don't know if it happened before or after, but he didn't even fly home with the team. He stayed back, and I think he got in trouble then. After
that's
the
what
game.
I think. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he didn't fly home with the team, number one, which is incredibly weird and atypical, right? It never happens. The coach always flies home with the team. So he hangs back and then, he's at the bar dancing with these girls and the team is just come on, man. Get out of here, dude. It's just a terrible look, but he'll be in USC next year and that's fine. I mean, it's probably best for everybody.
And they'll lose. But listen, they were 6.5 win total before the year. I think it's pretty safe to say they might not even get the half of that. It's bad.
No, they're not. I never bought into them. I thought that they were going to be right there with, Houston and Detroit is the bottom. Those teams probably couldn't win any games. I know there was a lot of momentum for Jacksonville division title tickets compared, in response to – right, just in response to how weak the division was going to be, right? And it's going to be a very weak division, but it ain't that weak, So, those tickets are kind of dead. But it's a bad roster and it's a bad coach and it's a bad culture. So they got to start over again.
Yeah, I agree. So let's look at this Thursday night real quick here. Great game. And you don't get these a lot on Thursday night. Really fantastic game. You got the Rams traveling to Seattle. This is a rematch of the wild card round last year in the similar place. Rams won, and were able to go into Green Bay and play a really tough game, tight game, up against the Packers. And this one's a little different now because obviously the Rams got their new toy in Matt Stafford. So real quick here, I think you saw a little bit of the Tampa Bay hangover with the Rams last week. I think you saw the Seahawks really show their resiliency after losing 2 straight, especially the one to Minnesota and the one to Tennessee at home. And they go to San Fran and win it. Now you just got a really even game. What quick take? Any feel on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be whoever has the ball last, right? I mean, you look at these two offenses, they can score some points. Seattle offense, very, very good. So, like, I know a lot of people talk about Matt Stafford and the Rams offense, but, Russell Wilson and what Seattle is doing, really good. They're awesome in the red zone. They score touchdowns at the 3rd highest rate in the red zone, yards per play, points scored. They had the one game against Minnesota where they only scored 17, which was just kind of like a weird game,
It was weird,
with turnovers, but they scored at least 28 in the other games. Rams 4-0 to the over. Totals are always in the 50s. Games are always going over for the Rams. So I think the over is probably the best play here. It'll come down to who has the ball last. I would bet, I mean, if I had to take a side, I would take Seattle. I'd probably want it at 3, where I would just play it on the money line. But I just think that, these teams are pretty equal. With these NFC West teams, it's like whenever they're playing, I'm probably just going to take the points with whoever's getting them.
The side I have right now is the over as well. The over on Thursday Night Football so far is 2-2. We usually see that trend being a little more favorites to the over. So I think this is one of those games on a short week. Like you spoke, Rams are 4-0 to the over already. This opened, I think, around 53 and a half. Has already shot up a point. So I think the public sees it as well. On a short week, on an explosive offense, I think they're going to put on a show. I lean Rams a little, but really my play is going to be on the total. I'm a little defiant on the game myself. I see both sides. I really see the Rams getting out. If anything, I'll play Rams first half. See the Rams getting out to lead, but Seattle's been really good in the second halves of games this year. And I think that's where I get a little nervous in the Rams. To be honest with you, I think they're still smelling themselves a little bit. And I'm a little nervous if they're really, who they think they are. I think we all know they're good, but they're not great.
No, and I think defensively they have some star players, but there's some areas that you can attack. And, I think, like I said, when the Rams play a good offense, we even saw that in the playoffs last year, in the playoffs, when they play a really good offense, they're going to allow some points, right?
Yep.
Even though they have Aaron Donald and those guys and Jalen Ramsey, because Seattle has Lockett and Metcalf and Ramsey can't cover them both, right? So I think they'll be able to put some points up. So I think that, again, it's probably a game with whoever has the ball last, whoever gets touchdowns instead of field goals. And, I Russell at home, I kind of take him. I like to take Russell whenever he's a dog. And especially, I think these 4 NFC West teams are so even. If I can get the 3 with Seattle, I would probably jump on it. But I do agree with you that the over is the best play.
I like your side. Just, your point there, because Russ could be 0-2 at home. And, man, that doesn't happen much. So it's an interesting take. I'm just going to sit back, enjoy the game, hope for some points, and go from there. But it's been another great week, another Philly Bets episode where we just break down the Eagles game this week, a little Temple, a little Thursday Night Football. But next week, we'll get into a lot more that is happening here around Philly. It's great stuff. I appreciate you, Drums, getting into the show tonight. We'll be back on the air on the Sharp app on Saturday morning, talking college football with Benny for breakfast. But as always, here on Heat Ratio Sports, we're here every Wednesday night, breaking it down for what is on the market for Philly betting for now and the weekend. Until then, Bud, good stuff. We'll talk.
Absolutely. Let's get this money.
Let's go. All right, until next week, let's get a dub. We're out. D-Gleck, X Drumheller, Philly Bets. Until then.